In the dense forest edge, a group of about 10 men were busy loading animal cages onto a truck. These cages were filled with rare and endangered animals like tigers, antelopes, seals, and marble cats. The group's actions were illegal as they were poaching rare animals from a national park, a serious crime. The men had used tranquilizer guns to sedate the animals before locking them in cages to sell to wealthy collectors or to be killed for their parts to make traditional medicines. Poachers had gathered the animals they needed and were preparing to leave the forest. However, they were unaware that someone was watching them, someone who intended to stop them from escaping. Ty, a man in his late 30s dressed in camouflage, emerged from his hiding spot. He was armed with a .375 rifle loaded and ready. Ty had contacted the authorities long ago, but there was no sign of them arriving. Afraid the poachers would escape, Ty decided he had to act. He scanned the area and his eyes fixed on the lead truck with a cage holding a tiger. The tiger stared back at the poachers with vengeful eyes. I thought, what if I released the tiger? With that in mind, he moved stealthily towards the cage, taking advantage of the poacher's distraction. Only the tiger noticed his approach. He raised his finger to his lips, signaling the tiger to be quiet, although he knew the animal couldn't understand him. The tiger roared loudly, drawing the attention of the poachers. They turned towards the cage, but saw nothing unusual. As Ty had quickly hidden under the truck, one of the poachers angrily approached the cage and struck it with a metal rod. Yelling at the tiger to be quiet, the tiger, unfazed, roared again, prompting another angry response from the poacher who threatened to use an electric shock. The tiger fell silent but continued to glare with rage. As the poacher walked away, Ty emerged from his hiding spot, quickly picking the lock on the cage. He swung the door open and the tiger, sensing freedom, roared once more. The poacher turned back, furious, only to find the tiger charging at him. The scene erupted into chaos as the tiger pounced, claws extended, and the poacher screamed in terror. The tiger's claws tore through his face and neck, leaving him lifeless. The other poachers froze in shock, their guns aimed at the tiger. "Don't shoot the tiger. We need its pelt intact," shouted the leader. The poachers hesitated, unsure what to do, until one finally aimed a tranquilizer gun, but Ty was quicker. He fired his rifle, hitting the poacher in the shoulder and sending him sprawling. With no one left to stop it, the tiger turned its fury on the remaining poachers, who scattered in panic. Some climbed into trees, others ran into the forest, and a few hid behind vehicles. Ty, using the chaos to his advantage, continued to shoot at the poachers, preventing them from regrouping. The leader, realizing the threat Ty posed, ordered his men to focus on him. They fired wildly at his position, forcing him to take cover behind a large tree. Ty, however, had planned for this. He pulled a grenade from his pocket and waited for the right moment. 3 poachers armed with AK-47s advanced towards his hiding spot. As they got closer, Ty threw the grenade, forcing them to dive for cover. The explosion sent shockwaves through the forest, and the poachers were thrown to the ground, stunned. Ty used this opportunity to take out the remaining threats, ensuring that none of the poachers would escape the forest with their illegal haul. Even a little bit, there was a chance he'd get a bullet right in his head. But the worst wasn't over. It wasn't only Tannen who had explosives in his bag. The poachers did too. One of them grabbed a stick of dynamite. You think you're the only one, he sneered. He lit the fuse and threw it towards Tannen's tree. Boom! The explosion roared again, the force of it so strong that it brought down the tree Tannen was using for cover. Without a shield, bullets rained down on him once more. This time, Tannen didn't wait. He sprinted away, zigzagging to avoid the hail of bullets. Bang, bang, bang. He tried to keep moving, but a bullet grazed his calf, sending him sprawling to the ground as he fell. More bullets whizzed past, narrowly missing him. Determined not to become an easy target, Tannen pushed himself up, tumbling behind a large tree. He panted heavily, glancing at the tear in his pants. Luckily, the bullet had only grazed him. But the situation was far from safe. Bullets continued to thud into the tree, shaking it with each impact. Tannen found himself at a disadvantage. He couldn't move, and he could hear the footsteps of the poachers approaching. If they reached him, he didn't know how he would escape. Except he did have one last trick. He pulled out a necklace from under his shirt, a pendant with a tiger's fang. It was called the Fang Amulet. Without wasting time, clasped the necklace in his hands and chanted an incantation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. As the poachers neared the tree, they hesitated, finding no sign of him. Where the hell did he go? One of them muttered. He had vanished without a trace, and no one had seen him run. Just then, the wail of sirens filled the air. Red and blue lights flashed as police cars and park rangers arrived on the scene. Poachers were taken aback. The leader quickly ordered a retreat, but the authorities were faster, aiming their guns and ordering them to surrender. Poachers had no choice but to comply, dropping their weapons and raising their hands in defeat. As handcuffs clicked onto their wrists, their faces twisted in anger. "It's all because of that guy," one of them snarled. Till the poachers were apprehended, Tannen emerged from behind a tree, breathing a sigh of relief. He tucked the fang amulet back under his shirt and folded his hands in a quick prayer. He then heard footsteps approaching from behind, but this time it wasn't human. Turning around, Tannen saw the tiger standing there, its eyes locked with his. He raised a hand in a friendly wave, smiling warmly. The tiger seemed to understand, bowing its head slightly before turning and disappearing back into the forest. Tannen exhaled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Once again, he had managed to save the animals. Just then, a voice called out, "Hey, Tannen, was all this you're doing?" Tannen turned to see a police officer with the rank of major known as Inspector Pinker. Lowering his rifle, Tannen smiled sheepishly. "I had no choice, Inspector. When I got here, they were about to leave. If I didn't do anything, they would have escaped before you arrived." The inspector raised an eyebrow. "We had roadblocks set up. They wouldn't have gotten far." Tannen shook his head. "You don't understand, Inspector. Many escape routes through this forest. For an operation this big, they must have inside information. They know where your roadblocks are and can change their route." Inspector Pinkerton sighed, recognizing the truth in Tannen's words. "Thank you for your help, Tannen. But sometimes your methods are a bit extreme. Remember, in today's world, people are big on rights. If they press charges against you for assault, we can't help you." Tannen nodded. "I'm aware, Inspector, but if it means saving these animals, I'll take the risk. What they do to these creatures is far worse." Inspector Pinkerton watched as Tannen slung his rifle over his shoulder and walked back toward the road. Despite his unconventional ways, Tannen's skills and determination were undeniable. As Tannen reached the road, he saw officers and rangers working together to free the animals from their cages. These creatures had been through so much hunted and captured by humans. Tannen had been advocating for animal rights for years, one of the first hunters to speak out against the practice when it was still considered normal. He thought about how society had changed. Once hunting for sport was common, but now many people recognize the importance of protecting wildlife. As he watched the animals being set free, Tannen felt a glimmer of hope. There was still much work to be done, but moments like this made it all worthwhile. These rare and endangered species were legally protected, with severe penalties for those caught hunting them. This legislation had significantly impacted the demand for hunters like Tannen. Nowadays, almost no one hired guides for jungle treks because many forests had been converted into accessible tourist destinations. Only a few groups required guides for less conventional forests, and skilled hunters like Tannen were frequently employed by them. Tannen's clients were usually wealthy and didn't haggle over fees. They paid whatever he asked. In return, Tannen ensured their safety in the wild. His clients never had to worry about dangers when trekking with him because of his extensive experience and high-level skills. After assisting the authorities in capturing a gang of poachers, Tannen returned home to prepare for his next guiding job. However, his phone rang unexpectedly. Seeing it was his trusted assistant, Tannen frowned, having instructed not to call unless it was urgent. "What's up? Why are you calling?" Tannen answered. His assistant, Ching, a man in his 40s, replied, "Someone wants to hire you for a jungle trek." "What? You called just for that?" "I told you only to call if it's important. If someone wants to hire me, set a date with them." "I know, but this client isn't ordinary. They want to talk to you now." "Who are they? Why do they need to talk to me?" Tannen asked, his irritation evident. "I know who they are, but they seem very wealthy. There are nearly 10 black black vans parked in front of your house right now." Thanen was stunned. "What? Why do they need so many vans? What do they want?" "They haven't told me yet. You should get back here quickly before they lose patience." Realizing the urgency, Thanen sighed. "I'll head back now. Tell them to wait a bit." Thanen quickly ended the call, slung his rifle over his shoulder, and started walking towards the dirt road. His motorcycle sped along the route from the poaching site to his home, about 40 kilometers away. His house was in a rural area, isolated at the edge of a forest. As he neared home, he saw the black vans and several men in suits milling around. Upon seeing Thanen approach, the men made way for him. He parked his motorcycle under his stilted house and noticed a well-dressed man in his 50s waiting in a wooden pavilion. The man exuded an air of wealth and cunning. This was Mala, a powerful and influential figure in the province. "Hello there," Mala greeted, standing up with a sly smile. "You must be Thanen, the best hunter round here." Thanen, always humble, replied, "Not exactly. What can I do for you? Are you here to hire me for a jungle trek?" "Yes," Mala smiled. "I need a skilled guide like you. Why didn't you tell my assistant? I usually don't take jobs personally, but wanted to discuss it with you directly. Prefer working with you," Mala explained. "All right, let's go inside to talk more privately," Thanen suggested. "Sure, thank you," Mala said. As they headed inside, two of Mala's bodyguards tried to follow, but Thanen stopped them. "Just him, you two can wait outside." The bodyguards seemed displeased, but Mala reassured them. "It's fine, Thanen won't harm me, right?" "Of course not," Thanen affirmed. With that, Mala and Thanen went inside, leaving the bodyguards and Chang outside. The living room was filled with jungle gear and photos of Thanen from his youth. Despite being a hunter, there were no trophies or animal parts, which was unusual for someone in his profession. "Have a seat," Thanen offered. "Thank you," Mala said, sitting down. Thanen took a seat opposite him. "Let's not waste any time. Why do you want to hire me?" "I want you to guide me through the Prapiron forest." Thanen nodded. "I know it. But isn't that area protected?" "It is," Mala acknowledged. "But I have a friend who's the head of the park. We won't have any trouble entering." Hearing this, Thanen grew wary. "What do you need to do there?" Mala leaned forward, his expression serious. "I have a special mission. I need you to trust me. I can't give details, but I guarantee it's worth your while." Thanen felt uneasy but knew refusing someone as powerful as Mala could be dangerous. "All right, I'll help you, but I need more information before we go." Mala smiled, pleased. "Good. We'll discuss the details soon. I assure you, this will be an adventure like no other." With that, Thanen knew he was about to embark on a journey far more dangerous and mysterious than any he had taken before. "Have you ever heard of the Forbidden Zone in the rainforest, Hunter?" asked the man known as Father Loam, his face appearing deep in thought. Hunter Thanen looked puzzled. "What do you mean by that? Please think carefully. Do you know what I'm talking about?" The man leaned forward, fixing his gaze on the hunter. "The Forbidden Zone I'm referring to is an area known as the Dark Forest." Upon hearing this, Thanen froze, a chill running down his spine. It had been a long time since he had heard that name. The Dark Forest was infamous among hunters in the northern regions for being a perilous place inhabited by malevolent spirits known as Ga. However, most people didn't know if these tales were true or merely fabrications, as very few hunters had actually ventured into the dark. Default text forest. One such hunter was Thanen's mentor, Master Mek, a renowned figure for his forest skills and mystical knowledge. Thanen had heard his mentor speak of the dangers of the dark forest quite extensively. "So, does the hunter know of it?" Father Loon's voice pulled Thanen back from his thoughts. "I've heard about it," Thanen admitted, "but only vaguely. Master Mek used to talk about the terrifying nature of the dark forest. He said the spirits were real and extremely dangerous, swift, fierce, and immortal. Some even possessed magical powers. Master Mek said most of them resided in the dark forest." Father Loon smiled. "That's exactly what I've heard too, but legends are just legends. Don't know if they're true or not. That's why I want to test it by having a skilled hunter like you guide me. There, are you saying you want to hire me to enter the dark forest just to prove whether these legends are true?" Thanen asked incredulously. Father Lone nodded. Double quotes, yes. I'm driven by curiosity. Will you help me? Tannen hesitated. I must decline this job. Father Lone's face showed disappointment. Why? Why are you refusing? Tannen shook his head. I'm sorry, but I don't take on such tasks. I'm skilled at leading tours in forests I know well. I've never been to the dark forest you speak of, and I'm concerned I won't perform well. You should find someone else. Wait a minute, Father Lone said, fixing his gaze on Tannen. I came here because I wanted a hunter like you, someone with a good reputation. It's a shame you're so stubborn. Thank you for your trust, but I can't accept the job, Tannen replied. The area you want to go to is a forbidden zone. Even if you know the head of the park, it's still illegal. I won't break the law. Illegal, Father Lone sneered. Don't pretend you don't know. Before you came here, you were involved in dealing with poachers, right? That was illegal too. Tanen's face hardened. What I did was to protect wildlife. Every life is valuable to me, more than the law. If your expedition to the dark forest could help the world, I might consider it. But it seems you're just trying to prove some crazy theory of yours. Father Lone's eyes narrowed. You're more stubborn than I thought. I was warned about your attitude before, but I didn't believe it. Anyway, I'll remember this. With that, Father Lone stood up, glaring at Tannen. It seems you don't know me well. Otherwise, you wouldn't dare refuse someone like me. Father Lone left through the door, and several suited men followed him out. A convoy of vehicles drove away from Tanen's home, marking the first time such a large number of people had visited. As the vehicles disappeared from view, Tanen's assistant, Tiang, came running up. How did it go, brother? I saw that Father Lone didn't look pleased when he left. What happened? It's nothing, Tannen said. I just turned down his offer. Why? Did they want you to hunt some animals or something? They wanted me to guide them into the forbidden zone of the dark forest, Tannen explained. Tiang looked surprised. The dark forest? You mean the place people talk about? Filled with conspirates? Yes, that's the one. They want to prove whether the conspirates exist. But I don't believe that's all they want. There must be something more to it. What do you think they want? Tiang asked. I'm not sure, but it's not our concern. Whatever they plan to do there doesn't affect us. Tiang nodded. By the way, can I ask you something? Do you believe in the conspirates? Tannen frowned. Why do you ask? I was just curious. I heard that your mentor used to talk about the spirits often. Did he ever say anything about them? That was probably just talk, Tannen said with a shrug. Master Mech was known for his stories. He might have been joking. It's a pity he's no longer around to tell the stories himself. Tiang nodded, acknowledging this. All right then. I'll head back now. Thanks for guarding the house. After Tiang left, Tannen sighed with relief and went back inside his house. Locking the door behind him, he was uneasy about the events that had transpired. Something felt off. And his intuition was usually accurate. He recalled the questions from Tiang about the spirits. Master Mech had often mentioned them, but never jokingly. Tannen reached for the toothed necklace, a gift from his mentor, and examined it. Master Mech had given it to him for protection against evil, especially the entities of the dark forest. Tannen decided to call his friend Samrak, an expert in ancient artifacts. They had worked together. Frequently in the past, after a few rings, Samrak's voice answered. Hello, Samrak. It's Tannen. It's been a while. Tannen. The last time we met was at that restaurant near my place. What's up? I have a question. Are you familiar with the dark forest? Samrak sounded surprised. The dark forest, if I'm not mistaken. It's in the rainforest and is a forbidden area, right? Yes, that's the one. I want to know what's really there. Let me think for a moment. There's something intriguing about that forest. After a pause, Samrak continued. I remember now. Besides the conspirates, people say there's hidden treasure in the heart of the dark forest. Tanen's eyes widened. What kind of treasure? Let me check my notes, Samrak said. The treasure rumored to be hidden there is called the Gannon-foot necklace. Tannen was stunned. Gannon-foot necklace? That name sounds familiar. It should, Samrak replied. According to my records, the Gannon-foot necklace is said to contain the power of the Gannon deity revered by the conspirates. It's believed that whoever possesses this necklace gains supernatural powers and can use the magic of the spirits. Tannen realized the gravity of the situation. If the cannon foot necklace was real, it made sense why Father Loon was so interested in entering the dark forest. Everyone would desire such power. Tannen decided to investigate further. Here's the English translation of the excerpt. But if that's the case, how are we going to enter the forest? The teacher himself said that we need the guide to find the gun and foot necklace. Nikam nodded slightly. Yes, we need that hunter to find the gun and foot necklace. But I didn't say we needed him for that purpose. Oh, then what does the teacher need him for? But if that's the case, how are we going to enter the forest? The teacher himself said that we need the guide to find the gun and foot necklace. Nikam nodded slightly. Yes, we need that hunter to find the gun and foot necklace, but I didn't say we needed him for that purpose. Oh, then what does the teacher need him for? Nikam smiled. Actually, I don't need him personally. I need what's attached to him. Attached to him? What do you mean? Nikam turned to look at the corpse. The tooth necklace, he said. The tooth necklace is a powerful charm that protects its wearer from all kinds of danger. Moreover, it is also the key to opening a cave in the forest where the gun and foot necklace is hidden. It's a treasure hidden in the cave, and no one has found it yet because few people know that the tooth necklace is necessary to open that cave. I see that, so where did the hunter get that thing? Nikam smiled. It's a long story. I'll tell you later. But what do we do now? We need to take the necklace from the hunter, right? If that's the case, there's no problem. I'll send 4 or 5 of my best men to get it for us. It's good that you have skilled men, but they might not be able to handle that hunter. What do you mean? My men are quite skilled. Many of them are former soldiers and mercenaries. I know your men are capable, but the hunter is a step above. Have you forgotten that he is a practitioner of magic? Ordinary people like your men stand no chance against him. So, what should I do? You don't need to do anything. I'll go myself. I haven't faced him in a long time. I want to see what level his skills are at. Back at the elevated wooden house of the hunter, Tannen was still on the phone with Samrak. The treasure hunter, I'm relieved to hear from you. I hope nothing goes wrong. Oh, there's nothing to worry about. Over 90% of supernatural phenomena are usually just made-up stories. I understand. I hope that's the case, even though I believe in these things somewhat. I still hope the gun and foot necklace is just a myth. I think it's better this way. I'll check this matter further for your peace of mind. Thank you, Samrak. No problem. I have many connections in this field, and I know everything that's going on. Tannen chuckled. Samrak, you've always been a great help. I'd love to treat you to a meal. I'm in the north these days, so it wouldn't be difficult to meet you. Oh, you're in the north? What are you doing here? Just checking out some work. I'm getting into the gemstone trade, and there's a newly discovered mine here. I wanted to come and check it out before anyone else. Well, good luck with that. Hope you make a lot of money. Thanks. I hope you do too if there's nothing else. I'll hang up now. Good luck. After hanging up, Tannen sighed with relief. Speaking with Samrak, the treasure hunter had put his mind at ease. Samrak was like both a friend and an employer to him. Tannen had often helped Samrak search for treasures, so they were quite close. It seemed that today's mission was coming to an end. Glancing at the clock, it read 21:39. Since Tannen was an early riser, he preferred to go to bed early. Even though it wasn't very late, it was well past his bedtime. Tannen removed his weapons and trekking gear to change clothes and take a shower. However, while taking off his hat, he heard a strange sound from underneath the house. The hunter stopped, pausing his actions, and crouched down, listening. The sound seemed like footsteps, and there were likely more than one person. This made Tannen feel a chill down his spine. It seemed that intruders had entered his house through the back, which was unusual because he would normally hear noises from the front. It appeared that these people had sneaked in from the forest at the back. Tannen quickly grabbed the rifle from the table and pulled out a .38 revolver from the drawer, slipping it into his waistband. He then moved cautiously towards the house's interior and lifted the oil lamp, covering a small square opening in the floor. It was an emergency exit. small square, looked down beneath the house and saw 3 large men in black running up the stairs at the front of his house. Tannen didn't waste any time. He aimed the rifle at the front door and fired 3 shots. The bullets pierced the door, followed by cries from one of the men. Tannen smiled. These fools have chosen the wrong person to mess with. Without waiting, Tannen jumped down through the opening, rifle in hand, and ran towards the front stairs. In the chaos, he saw an opportunity to finish them off. He fired several more rounds at them, causing cries of pain as the bullets likely grazed their feet. He then reloaded his rifle and ran outside to continue shooting them. As the 3 men realized they were being ambushed by the hunter, they jumped off the stairs and ran in different directions. Tannen pursued them, shooting as he went. The first man fell, the second was hit in the ribs, and the last one was shot in the backside. Falling hard to the ground, it seemed the 3 men were now incapacitated. Tannen spat on the ground and approached to interrogate them about who sent them. Just then, he felt a chill from behind. Turning around, he saw a man in black, distinct from the previous 3. He wore a black cotton outfit, both arms covered in tattooed talismans, and a large rosary around his neck. His eyes had a fearsome glint. Tannen was momentarily stunned. The man looked like someone who practiced dark arts, but Tannen was disturbed because the face seemed oddly familiar, though he couldn't place it. Before he could remember, the man drew a knife from his bag and charged at Tannen. Tannen quickly aimed his rifle, threatening the man to stop. "Don't come any closer, or I'll shoot you," but the man continued, showing no sign of stopping, with no other options. Tannen fired, but the gun misfired. Panicking, Tannen pulled out the .38 revolver and chanted a spell, "Awaken, rise." "Oh, great master, let this incantation penetrate." But as he aimed at the man threw his knife. Tannen had to dodge, and the knife cut his arm. He fell to the ground in pain. The man attacked again, kicking the revolver out of Tannen's hand and stomping on his midsection. Tannen managed to roll away, grabbing a knife from his ankle and rushing at the man. But the man didn't flinch. Instead, he grabbed Tannen's wrist and prevented him from using the knife. It seemed the knife had no effect on the man's skin. The man took the opportunity to punch Tannen's face, sending him crashing to the ground. Wounded and in pain, Tannen realized he couldn't fight the man with his bare hands. He quickly pulled out the toothed necklace from under his shirt, praying and chanting another spell. The man, sensing the danger, threw white powder at Tannen, causing him to lose sight of the man. Tannen struggled to regain his vision, but found the man had vanished. He scanned the area but saw nothing, realizing the intruder was no longer there. The pain radiating through Tannen's body was a constant reminder of the fierce struggle he had endured. He grimaced as he shifted, feeling bruises and wounds that spoke of a violent encounter. "Ouch, why does it hurt so much?" "Don't move yet," Tannen muttered to himself. The memories of the previous night flooded back. He had been attacked, and a sorcerer had played a significant role in his suffering. The hunter, Samrak, noticed Tannen's discomfort and approached cautiously. "Hey, you're awake. How are you feeling?" Tannen slowly opened his eyes. "Yeah, I'm awake. Just trying to piece together what happened. I remember being attacked, but it's all a blur." Samrak nodded, understanding. "I tried calling you around 11 p.m. last night to share what I had discovered, but you didn't answer. I figured you might have been busy or asleep. But when I heard about the gunfire in the neighboring district, I started to worry. I decided to drive over to check on you. When I got there, the police were already on the scene. I thought you might be in serious trouble, but thankfully, they said you were being taken to the hospital. I stayed to keep an eye on things." Tannen's eyes showed a mix of gratitude and concern. "Thanks for being there. I didn't expect the situation to escalate like this, but I need to know what exactly happened. Who were those people that attacked me?" Samrak's expression grew serious. "Police said there were no signs of forced entry at your house, and nothing seemed to be missing. If they weren't thieves, then what were they after?" Tannen's face became tense. "They took something important from me. My necklace it's crucial for my protection." Samrak looked concerned. "They specifically targeted your necklace. What do you think they want with it?" Tannen took a deep breath. "It's hard to say, but I have a theory. with Vol.8 malice people for a while, and they're known for targeting those who possess powerful objects. But these attackers weren't ordinary criminals. They had a sorcerer with them, and that makes things more dangerous. Samrak was intrigued. A sorcerer? That serious? Why would they send a sorcerer after you? Tynan was about to respond when the door opened. Both men turned to see Inspector Pinkerton entering the room. Good morning. Tynan, we just met yesterday, didn't we? How are you feeling today? Tynan attempted a smile. Hello, Inspector. I'm doing better, thanks. I appreciate you coming by. Inspector Pinkerton nodded. I'm here to follow up on the incident. Can you tell me more about what happened? Tynan glanced at Samrak before answering. I'm not entirely sure. I believe the attack might have been a targeted effort, possibly by Vol.8 malice associates. Inspector Pinkerton looked intrigued. Vol.8 malice, that's quite a significant accusation. Do you have any specific suspects? Tynan shook his head. I don't know for certain. I lost consciousness during the attack, so I couldn't identify them, but their aim was clearly to get my necklace. Inspector Pinkerton scrutinized Tynan. It's odd that someone would go to such lengths for a necklace. Are you sure there's no other reason for the attack? Tynan's face grew serious. There might be more to it than just a necklace. I've had problems with these people before, but this is different. They knew exactly where to find me. Inspector Pinkerton's gaze sharpened. So, you're suggesting this attack was premeditated? Tynan nodded. Yes, it's not just a random crime. The presence of a sorcerer indicates a deeper agenda. Inspector Pinkerton's expression turned thoughtful. I'll need to investigate further. In the meantime, if you remember anything else, please let me know. It's crucial we get to the bottom of this. As Inspector Pinkerton left the room, Tynan and Samrak exchanged worried glances. I'm glad he's taking this seriously, Samrak said, but we need to be careful. If Vol.8 malice is involved, things could get even more dangerous. Tynan nodded. You're right, we need to figure out who this sorcerer is and why they're targeting me. Samrak's face grew contemplative. Do you have any idea who the sorcerer might be? Tynan hesitated, then said, I have a suspicion there's someone from my past. His name is Nikam. He's a sorcerer with a dark reputation. If it's him, then we're dealing with someone very dangerous. Samrak's eyes widened. Nikam, I've heard of him. He's not someone to be taken lightly. Tynan agreed. Exactly. We need to be prepared for anything if Nikam is behind this. We're in for a tough fight. Nin and Nikam were among the children that Pranmek took in, but they weren't very close. If I remember correctly, Nikam was about 5 years older than Tynan, a senior during their time under Pranmek's care. The reason Tynan remembered Nikam well was that Nikam was more talented than the other children. Apart from his survival skills in the forest, Nikam's notable talent was his ability to quickly learn magic spells. He was able to use powerful magic from a young age. In the past, learning magic was as crucial as survival skills because the forest was full of mysterious entities. Without such knowledge, one might not survive in such a challenging environment. However, Nikam's talent had its drawbacks. His exceptional ability to learn magic made him more ambitious than most children. After mastering all the spells from Pranmek, Nikam still felt it wasn't enough and began studying dark magic from other sources. When Pranmek noticed Nikam's deviation, he reprimanded him and told him to stop meddling with dark magic. But Nikam refused to give up, sneaking off to study it in secret. When Pranmek discovered this, Nikam was severely punished, from harsh scolding to physical beatings, but nothing could quench his ambition. Unable to coexist with his master any longer, Nikam decided to leave the sanctuary. There was nothing more for him to learn there, and he ventured into the world to pursue his obsession with dark magic. Bearing the entire story, Samrak sat in stunned silence, shocked by the events. This meant that the one who harmed you was the senior disciple, who left the sanctuary at a young age, right? Tynan nodded. I think so. Even though we barely knew each other, I believe that's him. Why would Nikam do such things? Samrak asked. Is it possible that he is collaborating with your stepfather, Malik, to enter the Donga forest? Samrak's face showed realization. Oh, I forgot to mention that. I should have told you about that. Remember when I called you you at 11 p.m. You mentioned that I had instructed someone to investigate your stepfather, Malik. My people reported that about a month ago, Malik contacted mercenaries and ordered a large shipment of weapons. If that's the case, it means that Malik is more serious about this than we thought. I believe he intends to enter the Donga forest to find the Ganon's foot amulet, Tanan said with clenched fists, frustrated. And now he's teamed up with a spellcaster like Nikam. This is getting serious. I think you're right, Samrak agreed. So, does the Ganon's foot amulet really exist? If the legends are true, its power is no joke. Imagine if a villain like Malik or Nikam got their hands on it. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Tanan stood up from the bed. I can't let this happen. Calm down first, Samrak advised. Concerned, what are you planning to do? I need to stop them from finding the amulet. If I don't, it will cause a lot of trouble, Tanan said, determined. He recalled what Branmek had given him when he was about to leave the sanctuary, the Gnarltooth amulet. Branmek had entrusted it to him, telling him it was a crucial item for his protection. Tanan now understood its importance. The amulet was likely the key to opening the cave where the powerful Ganon's foot amulet was hidden. I made a mistake, Tanan said bitterly. I failed to keep the amulet safe as Branmek instructed. He gave it to me for a reason, and now I've failed. Don't blame yourself, Samrak consoled. You've done your best, even with the amulet's power. Those villains are beyond your capacity to handle alone. This is my responsibility, Tanan insisted. I need to go after them into the forest and stop them from finding the treasure. That's madness, Samrak protested. You can't handle this alone. It's dangerous to go into that forest full of legends about evil spirits. You might end up killing yourself, but I have no choice, Tanan said, removing his IV drip and getting dressed. Must go now, or I might not catch up with them. Wait, you shouldn't be rushing like this, Samrak said, grabbing Tanan's arm. If you insist on going, then I'll come with you. Tanan was surprised. Why would you risk your life like this? Samrak smiled. You sound just like me, but if you're going, I'll go with you. Outside the hospital at Malik's mansion, activities were beginning. Nikam had returned with the Gnarltooth amulet, and Malik was pleased. I knew I could trust you. Nikam, my teacher has never let me down. Nikam wore the amulet around his neck. That guy wasn't much. His skills were average, and his magic abilities were nothing compared to my master's. Malik praised him, but had a question. I'm curious about something. Why did such an important item end up with that forest ranger? It seems he got it from his teacher. Why him? Oh, that's a simple explanation, Nikam said nonchalantly. He was a favorite student, hardworking and dedicated. Though not exceptionally talented from birth, he achieved his current level through hard work. That's why the teacher entrusted him with the amulet. Why did the teacher leave him alive? Won't this cause problems later? Malik wondered. Nikam looked at Malik with irritation. Are you questioning me about the disciple? It's nothing. Don't worry about it. Malik's skepticism was evident, but he decided to shift the topic. Let's focus on the present. We have everything we need. We'll start the operation tomorrow. Nikam smiled. Then let's get going. We have everything prepared. We can postpone the journey to tomorrow. Malik smiled and picked up the phone. Hello. Have the soldiers moved to our rendezvous point? The operation will start soon. Meanwhile, outside Malik's mansion, a figure was lurking in the bushes. It was Inspector Patacorn, who had come to monitor Malik's activities after visiting Tanan. After observing all night, Patacorn saw several vehicles leaving the mansion, including military jeeps filled with armed men. It looked like they were preparing for a major operation. Patacorn suspected that this was connected to Tanan's hospitalization. Despite being warned not to interfere, Patacorn knew that Tanan couldn't handle this alone. At least someone with his skills needed to be involved. Patacorn smiled and made a phone call. Hello, it's me. Remember our previous discussion? I need some time off for personal matters, about 3 to 4 days. Please handle the paperwork for me. He then headed to his hidden motorcycle, put on his helmet, and started it, following the convoy. Early that morning, Tanan and Samrak spent the entire night preparing their travel gear. Although Tanan was still injured from the attack, he was determined to leave. He's not an ordinary person. he still has knowledge of restorative spells and various herbs passed down from his master. In just one night, his body has almost fully recovered. As for Samrak, he insists on traveling with Thanen despite Mr. Finn's objections. Samrak refuses to listen, stating that now that he's involved, he cannot back out and must press on until the end. Unable to dissuade him, Thanen must concede, as he himself is just as stubborn. With this in mind, he realizes he has no reason to stop the other party. However, Samrak isn't the only one eager to join this journey. At that moment, footsteps approach, and when they turn around, they find it's Chang, Mr. Finn's assistant. Will you really not let me go with you, Thanen? Chang says sadly. I also want to join this trip. Well, Chang, Thanen replies, this house and the tour guiding job need to be managed while I'm away. You need to handle these responsibilities. Understand? I understand, but I've heard the forest of Donka is very dangerous. Aren't you going with just the people? Well, how many people go doesn't matter, as long as we stop those things. That's enough, but if you can't stop them, both the ones with Mr. Fawn and the ghost in the forest, it's basically suicide. Don't think like that, Chang, Thanen says, patting his subordinate's shoulder lightly. This is my responsibility. I've assigned you your tasks, so just handle your own duties well. That's all I need. With that, Chang has nothing to argue about and nods in agreement before turning away. Once Chang has left, Samrak turns and says, it's great that your subordinate seems to care about you so much. Thanen smiles. It's not surprising. I've been with Chang for nearly 10 years. This is the most challenging situation we've faced together. Do you think you'll come back to him again? Thanen hesitates at the question, even he isn't sure about that. I can't answer that yet. Let's. But that if the heavens favor me, I'll survive and return. Samrak laughs. Here I am, putting myself at risk for something I have no part in. What am I even doing? He adds, it's still not too late to back out now. No, I won't. I've already committed too much to back out now. That would be embarrassing. To that, both vehicles head toward the protected park area. Since this area is a conservation zone, entering it is illegal. But since Thanen doesn't know the park chief like Mr. Fawn does, he and Samrak must use natural paths to sneak in, which takes a considerable amount of time. They're setting out in the early evening. By late morning, the two arrive at the Prongfriar Forest. To reach Donka, they must first pass through this forest. The travel was uneventful since it was just an ordinary forest. Both are experienced in trekking, so the morning journey goes smoothly. However, after a while, they stop in the middle of the Prongfriar Forest. It is filled with black vans and jeeps. This is the point where Mr. Finn's group stopped. From the tracks on the ground, they must have disembarked and continued on foot a while ago. Seeing this, Thanen is frustrated. If they're led this way, there's a high chance he and Samrak will not catch up with them. But suddenly, there's a rustling from the bushes. They both turn around, guns drawn, aiming at the sound. At first, they think it's Mr. Finn's men left to guard the vehicles, but when the figure emerges, they are stunned. Don't shoot. It's me, says Lieutenant Pankern, who is in plain clothes. It seems the lieutenant has been waiting here for a while. Seeing this, Thanen and Samrak can hardly believe their eyes. Lieutenant, what are you doing here? Thanen asks. Lieutenant Pankern smiles. As I said, no matter what, I need to find out the whole story. It turns out that Lieutenant Pankern has joined the expedition, and though the two initially tried to dissuade him, the lieutenant threatened to call for reinforcements if they did not let him join. What's the story here? The lieutenant asks, even following you two into Prongfriar. If I tell you the details, will you really believe me? Thanen replies, why not? I've seen incredible things from you before, no matter how unbelievable it seems. It can't be that surprising, Lieutenant Pankern continues. If the treasure is real and has the powers described, how much is it worth? Samrak ponders. If it can do what the legend says, it's worth no less than 100 million. 100 million, no wonder Mr. Fawn is desperate to get it, Thanen comments. Lieutenant Pankern laughs. It's no surprise. Mr. Fawn is involved in underground business. Everyone knows about his activities, from forgery to human trafficking, and he even has connections within the police force. I've tried to take him down several times, but was always blocked by trespassing in a conservation area, and what we're doing now." They all laugh dryly. The three then continue their hike. The atmosphere becomes increasingly foreboding. The forest is thick like a labyrinth, the chill wind and strange animal sounds that can't be heard elsewhere. These combine with the exhaustion from the trek, creating a sense of dread among them. They advance carefully with the hunter leading, followed by the treasure hunter and the police officer bringing up the rear. As time passes, the forest becomes denser. The journey is almost silent, but everyone focused on the path ahead, unsure of what might appear. Thanen follows the tracks left by Mr. Finn's group, which is helpful since the large group leaves clear traces. However, he finds that they are still lagging behind. As the sun sets and darkness envelops the forest, the atmosphere grows more frightening. Despite this, Thanen is determined not to stop for rest, wanting to catch up with Mr. Finn's group. Finally, as midnight approaches, the eerie atmosphere intensifies, with the forest now dense and labyrinthine, the cold wind and the unsettling sounds from the unseen creatures. These factors, combined with their fatigue, make the situation even more ominous. The treasure hunter and the officer were beginning to falter, unlike the hunter, who continued walking ahead tirelessly. For him, trekking through the forest for hours was quite normal. "Are you tired already?" the hunter asked, noticing that he had left the other too far behind. "Not really. I'm still good to go," Samrak replied, though his face was marked with exhaustion. Officer Pinkerton showed no different signs, panting heavily as if his tongue was about to fall out. Seeing this, Titan shook his head. "I told you, this job isn't easy. We're several hundred yards behind that bastard. At this pace, you two won't catch up." "Sorry about that," the officer said, leaning against a tree and catching his breath. "I've never walked in the forest for this long before." "Well, if you keep walking like this, you won't last much longer," Titan said as he scanned the surroundings for a place to rest. During this, his gaze caught something on the ground. It was a sight that made the hunter shiver to his core. A human figure with its lower body buried in the ground. The body was emaciated, its skin dry and clinging to the bones as if its organs had been completely drained. Seeing this, the officer and the treasure hunter both turned to look, and when they saw it, their jaws dropped in shock. "What is that? A corpse? Calm down," Titan said. "It looks like a victim of the ghosts." The other two, now thoroughly shocked, turned their eyes around, their guns twitching with fear. "So, there are ghosts around here?" "Of course, otherwise it wouldn't be called the forest," the hunter said, raising his rifle and stepping forward. "Let's get out of here. We'll find a place to rest up ahead." The three of them moved away from the area where they found the body they were searching for an open space to rest for the night. When they found one, Titan gathered dry leaves and twigs, setting them ablaze to provide light and warmth. The three of them sat in a triangular formation around the fire. After resting their tired legs from the day's trek, the officer and the treasure hunter felt as if they were reborn. "I really can't handle this. The work of a hunter is harder than chasing criminals," the officer said. "I agree," Samrak said. "Dealing with treasure is much easier." "It's not surprising," the hunter said. "People who aren't used to trekking through the forest like you two are already doing well. I've been walking through forests all my life, so it's no surprise I'm good at it." "But how are we going to sleep tonight?" the officer asked. "In a forest with ghosts around. We won't be allowed a peaceful night." "Don't worry about that," Titan said. "You to get some rest. I'll stay on guard." "What, you're not going to rest?" Samrak asked in surprise. "You'll need to keep walking tomorrow too. It's fine. I might take a short nap, but I trust my instincts. If anything comes within 30 yards, I'll shoot it right in the head." Hearing this, the other two felt even more grateful to the hunter, feeling that this forest expedition was more of a burden on him than on them. But despite this, their bodies were still crying out for rest. They knew they needed to recuperate before continuing. Before we sleep, I need to relieve myself," Officer Pinkerton said, standing up. "I've been holding it in all day." Samrak turned to him. "Hey, are you going alone? It can't be helped. Should I ask the hunter to come with me? Wait here." "Yeah, that's true," Titan said. "But don't go too far. If anything happens, call out to me immediately." got it," Officer Pinkerton said, walking away from the campfire. Once out of sight of the others, he pulled out a radio. Officer Pinkerton wasn't planning to relieve himself as he had claimed. He intended to contact his subordinates at the police station. He knew that this mission was too difficult for just the three of them. Titan probably didn't want police interference, so he had to contact his subordinates secretly. Before entering the forest, Officer Pinkerton had instructed a team to set up a radio around the edge of the forest. Although the forest had some interference, making phones unusable, the radio still worked. "Tay, can you hear me? I'm in the forest now. I've reported everything that's happened about the treasure, the intentions of the gang leader, and the danger of the forest." He instructed them to send reinforcements in the morning, as the Kagos would likely not be active then. After giving the instructions, Officer Pinkerton put the radio away and turned to head back to the campfire. However, at that moment, he felt a chill run down his spine, sensing that something was approaching. He drew his gun and turned around to face whatever it was, but as he saw the figure, Officer Pinkerton froze in his tracks. A gunshot rang out in the forest. Titan and Samrak, sitting by the fire, turned abruptly towards the sound. "What was that?" "It sounds like it came from where the officer went," Titan said, grabbing his rifle and jumping up. He was about to rush to help, but before he could move, they saw a figure running towards them. It was the officer, running at high speed with something pursuing him. It was a ghastly creature, skeletal and emaciated, with long claws and sharp fangs. Yes, it was a Kaghost, and it wasn't alone. More of these creatures were chasing after the officer. "Run," Officer Pinkerton yelled, sprinting towards the campfire. Seeing this, neither Titan nor Samrak hesitated. They jumped up and ran after him, realizing that they wouldn't be getting any rest that night. The Kaghosts, the malevolent spirits of the forest, were relentlessly pursuing them, seeking to drain their souls completely. Officer Pinkerton, Samrak, and Titan ran with all their might, their adrenaline pumping and ignoring the pain from their exhaustion. "Hey, there are so many of them. Where are we going to escape to?" Samrak asked, his hands shaking as he gripped his gun. "How would I know?" Titan replied. "They came at us so fast, there's no time to find a place to hide." The three continued to flee, but at certain points, the hunter turned and fired at the pursuing creatures. Luckily, he had prepared his ammunition with special rights to combat the Kaghosts. However, the sheer number of them meant that no matter how many they took down, more kept appearing. "This is insane," Samrak exclaimed as he pulled out a grenade from his pocket, pulled the pin, and tossed it behind them. An explosion erupted, scattering the pursuing Kaghosts. At first, Samrak grinned in triumph, but it soon became clear that the hunter was not pleased. "What the hell are you doing?" "Was using a grenade on them," Samrak replied. "Are you out of your mind? This is Forest. What? Why can't I use it?" The hunter looked back in disbelief and saw that the Kaghosts were barely affected by the explosion. In fact, the blast had disturbed the ghosts lying in the ground, causing them to rise from their graves. "Oh, great," Titan groaned. "The Kaghosts live underground. By using a grenade, you've only woken them up." As the Kaghosts surged back into action, their numbers increasing even further, the situation grew increasingly dire. The three of them continued to run, their bodies growing weaker from exhaustion but driven by the terror of the Kaghosts hunting them. Just then, Officer Pinkerton, who was leading, spotted something ahead. "Hey, what's that?" The hunter and Samrak looked and saw red eyes, dozens of them staring back at them. The red eyes belonged to another group of Kaghosts standing in their path. With no way to escape, they realized they were surrounded by Kaghosts from all sides. The situation was grave, and the three of them were trapped with no apparent means of survival. "Just control yourself. You might be possessed," said Nick. "There's no way. I've trained both body and mind for decades. Nothing can control me," he shouted. "Enough already," said Uncle Mala, who had been listening. "This hunter is really annoying. I'll just shoot him and be done with it." "No, don't do that," Nick said, turning to him. "Everything so far has proven that this guy can't stop us." "Wait a moment. Why do you think that? Are you underestimating me?" Tynan said as he reached into his backpack to retrieve what he had prepared. Upon seeing this, the mercenaries of Uncle Mala aimed their guns at the hunter. "Hold on. Nick said, stopping them. You don't need to worry. I'm curious to see what this fool will do. Just wait. Tynan pulled out a metal chain and held it up, chanting a spell, Sapatavapa Isajeva Alwagatha. Upia Kanta Padang Tasawa Sapaya Yaka Periyanti Saka Sharadama Raja. Seeing this, everyone looked shocked, even Nick, who hadn't anticipated this. Using a chain as a weapon, as soon as the spell was complete, Tynan blew on the chain, swinging it overhead in a circular motion before striking the opponent. The chain flew through the air quickly, and Nick was struck in the middle of his body, the chain wrapping around him, rendering him immobile. Tynan then yanked the chain, pulling Nick toward him and delivered a punch to his face, sending him crashing to the ground. The hunter didn't wait. He raised the chain above his head and struck down with full force. Nick, realizing he had lost ground, quickly regained his composure and avoided the chain's attacks. He rolled away and grabbed some dirt, throwing it at Tynan. Tynan closed his eyes in response to the dirt and couldn't see. Nick used this opportunity to cast a spell to reveal what he couldn't see. Buddha, cover my eyes. I cannot see. As he stood up, he dashed towards Tynan, but Tynan, sensing Nick's approach, lashed out with the chain, pushing him into a tree with a loud crash. When Tynan opened his eyes, he saw Nick coming towards him without hesitation. Tynan raised the chain above his head and struck, but Nick, unable to dodge, removed his shirt and blocked the chain with his back. The sound was not of metal hitting flesh, but metal hitting metal when the chain was pulled back. Tynan was shocked to see it had struck a yantra sacred symbol. The chain's impact seemed to awaken the power within Nick. Suddenly, a red light emanated from the tattoo on Nick's back, and he began to tremble. Reciting a spell, Tynan tried to strike again, but Nick caught the chain easily with his hand, holding it firmly so Tynan couldn't pull it back. Nick then yanked the chain towards him, punching Tynan and sending him flying into a tree. Before Tynan could recover, Nick charged at him, using his foot to lift Tynan into the air and then striking him with his elbow, making Tynan crash down hard. Tynan was almost knocked out as Nick continued his assault. Despite Tynan's attempts to shoot with a .38 revolver, Nick dodged every bullet with impressive speed. When Tynan's weapon was kicked from his hands, it seemed that his chances were over. Exhausted and in pain, Tynan lay on the ground, gasping for breath. The last thing he saw was Nick approaching with a smile. Tynan wasn't sure how long he had been unconscious, but when he awoke, it was daylight. His body ached from the previous night's battle. He had been defeated by Nick and couldn't match his power. Despite using his secret technique with the chain, he couldn't overpower Nick's YANTRA ... When Tynan's senses fully returned, he realized he was tied to a tree, the work of Uncle Malice's men. Nearby, he saw the police officer and the treasure hunter, also bound. "You're awake?" asked the police officer. "Yes, you're bound too," Tynan replied. "Of course. We came together, so it's only natural," Sumrark said, feeling frustrated. Tynan realized he couldn't stop them now. He needed to free himself first. He started chanting a spell to break free. Tiwa Katup Tuptanung Samutavada Samathamas Sri Parada Anu before he could finish. Tynan felt the ropes tighten. Ouch, Tynan cried out as the spell to free himself failed. "Is something wrong?" asked the police officer. Tynan looked up, his face showing disappointment. "The ropes are protected by a spell. I can't break them." Sumrark looked at him and said, "We don't need to follow them. We're already at the entrance of the cave." Tynan looked ahead and saw the cave entrance. "Hey, are we at the Tuaganon cave?" Tynan asked. "Yes, they probably thought we'd end up here and tied us up nearby," Sumrark explained. Tynan's face showed panic. "Where are Uncle Mala and the others?" "They're inside the cave." "They've all gone in," Sumrark said. Tynan's face fell in despair. If they had entered the cave, he couldn't stop them from finding the Tuaganon necklace. Inside the cave, Uncle Mala, Nick, and the group of mercenaries were making their way through the tunnel. Not long ago, Nick used the necklace to open the cave door, and now it was useless inside. The cave was decorated beautifully, like a temple. Murals of long-toothed demons bowing to their gods. As they walked, Uncle Mala remarked, "This place is quite beautiful. Even if the demons look grotesque, their temple is well kept," Nick explained. "The demons didn't build this, humans did." "What do you mean, humans?" humans built this? Uncle Mala asked. Humans in the past studied the occult. Have you heard of the ghost religion? There used to be tribes that worship these demons, offering sacrifices to them, so the necklace didn't originate from the demons but was created by humans using their power to fight other people. Nick confirmed. Exactly. Humans extracted the demon's power and used it for battle. Finally, they reached the end of the cave and saw an altar with a red light shining from above, illuminating a necklace adorned with deep red rubies. Seeing this, Uncle Mala and Nick smiled, recognizing the two again and necklace they had been searching for. The mercenaries fired rapidly, but their bullets couldn't pierce the enchanted skin, causing Nick to fall backward onto the ground. Seeing this, the group of mercenaries rushed toward the sorcerer, holding him down to prevent him from moving. "Hey, let go!" Nick shouted, trying to fight back. He kicked at them, but with over 10 mercenaries holding him down, resistance was futile. As this was happening, Master Mala revealed a sinister smile before heading toward the pedestal holding the Garuda's foot necklace. "This necklace, which holds the power of spirits and ghosts, is a great treasure," he said. "Hey, don't touch it!" Nick shouted. Determined not to let the necklace be touched, Nick gritted his teeth and fought once more, closing his eyes and reciting a spell in his mind. At that moment, immense strength surged within him, allowing him to break free from the group of mercenaries and send them flying in all directions, despite the bullets still hitting him, causing significant pain. Nick struggled to stay on his feet. When he looked up, he saw the scene he dreaded most unfolding before him. "No, don't," Nick shouted. "You're not strong enough. Don't touch that necklace." But Master Mala ignored his warnings and seized the necklace from the pedestal. Suddenly, bright red light illuminated the entire cave. Both the sorcerer and the mercenaries shut their eyes tightly when the light faded. Everyone's mouths fell open in shock. Master Mala had put on the necklace and his body had transformed dramatically. He was now massive, with his ears extended, sharp claws growing from his hands, and his eyes glowing red. The mercenaries were momentarily stunned, as the figure before them was now a terrifying creature, starkly different from their former employer. The leader of the mercenaries, trembling, asked, "Master, what do we do now?" Master Mala turned to the soldier with a sinister smile, saying, "You will become my subordinate." The leader hesitated, asking, "What do you mean?" Master Mala shook his head slightly. "Not yet. I will make you one of mine." He raised his hand and began chanting an ancient spell. At that moment, something began to happen to the soldier's body. The soldier collapsed onto the ground, screaming in agony. His body began to transform, his ears extending, his skin becoming gaunt, sharp fangs emerging from his mouth, and his eyes turning red. After the soldier had fully transformed into a ghoul, he stood up and roared at the surrounding mercenaries. Seeing this, the other mercenaries stood dumbstruck, horrified at the sight of their leader being turned into a ghoul. The ghoul mercenary then lunged at the nearest victim, sinking his fangs into the person's abdomen, tearing and devouring the flesh before spitting it out. The unfortunate victim screamed in pain as the ghoul continued to feast, draining the life force from the body, leaving it a lifeless skeleton. In panic, the other mercenaries threw down their weapons and fled in all directions. Master Mala, now the embodiment of the Garuda deity, grinned with satisfaction, finally reviving himself in this world. Outside the cave, Garuda, Tainin, Samrak, and Police Lieutenant Panicorn were bound to the base of a tree. They had been waiting for a while with no sign of their captors returning. "Damn it, what are they doing in there?" Lieutenant Panicorn said, frustrated. Samrak replied, "Well, it's good they're taking their time. It means we're alive longer. If Master Mala comes out, do you think he'll let us live? He'll either kill us or leave us as food for the ghouls." Panicorn looked alarmed. "What are we going to do?" Just then, a scream of terror echoed from inside the cave. The three looked towards the noise, only to see the mercenaries fleeing in terror, their faces showing extreme fear. Even more shocking, dark clouds were covering the sky, blocking out the sun. "What's happening?" Samrak asked, his voice trembling. Tainin, equally shocked, said, "There's no other explanation. It's something beyond our understanding." As the sunlight was obscured by the dark clouds, everything fell into darkness. Master Mala, now a ghoul deity, stepped out of the cave. The three watched in horror as the ghoul deity took a deep breath, as if savoring the modern world after after centuries of imprisonment. So this is the current world, he mused. I feel more chaos than ever before. He then laughed maniacally, his thoughts filled with evil plans to turn all humans into ghouls like him. At that moment, the three captives saw a chance to escape as the mercenaries ran. Lieutenant Panicorn tripped one of them, causing him to fall. Panicorn quickly retrieved a knife from the fallen mercenary and used it to cut the ropes binding him. He then freed his companions, Tainin and Samrak. They now had to decide their next move. What do we do now? Samrak asked, looking around at the chaotic scene. We should follow the mercenaries and try to get out of here, Lieutenant Panicorn suggested. We'll regroup and return later. Samrak agreed. Let's retreat for now and plan our next move. Tainin, however, disagreed. I think that's not going to work. No one will escape this place. What do you mean? Samrak asked. You'll find out soon enough, Tainin replied. Meanwhile, Master Mala, now a ghoul deity, turned his attention to the mercenaries running in panic. He chanted another spell, causing the ground to tremble. Ghoulish figures began to rise from the earth, and red eyes appeared all around, surrounding the cave entrance. The situation was becoming dire as the ghouls closed in on all sides. The mercenaries and the three captives were trapped. Realizing the dire situation, the mercenaries joined forces with Tainin, Samrak, and Panicorn, all fighting for their survival. Tainin, the skilled hunter, led the defense. The others fought alongside him. As the ghouls advanced, the battle for survival intensified, with everyone determined to escape the encroaching nightmare. The soldiers, shocked and frightened, released their comrade's body. Tainin saw this. He quickly reached into his backpack, grabbed a handful of rice, and recited the incantation, Matrotarove Nawa Nahapipisak Tawami Mala Yakataya Deva Utterang Deva Protecting Still Edie Vesswood. He threw the rice onto the ground. Instantly, the rice grains began to glow with a yellow light, accompanied by the shrieks of the creatures underground. Soon after, they all emerged on the surface. The soldiers then opened fire, killing them with a barrage of bullets. It seemed that the humans were regaining the upper hand. The demon lord, who possessed the body of the stepfather, could not attack the sorcerer because the latter had summoned Hanuman, which was both fast and powerful, making it difficult to counter. The demon lord could only defend against the attacks, with each blow causing its physical form to cough up blood. It wasn't weak, but the body it possessed was too fragile. Nikam, gaining momentum, rushed forward and delivered a punch to the demon's body, sending it crashing into a tree. The sorcerer wasted no time, lifting the demon's body from the ground, throwing it into the air, and leaping to kick it in the abdomen. The impact was so severe that it nearly incapacitated the demon. Seeing this, the demon lord leaped onto a large tree, preparing for a more serious fight. At that moment, it raised its hands to cast an ancient spell, spreading its power throughout the forest. Suddenly, an unexpected event occurred. The ghost army fighting the hunters and mercenaries stopped abruptly, their bodies slowly dissolving into black smoke and converging on the stepfather's body. Nikam, watching from below, was astonished. It seemed the demon lord was gathering the power of the ghost from the entire forest into a single body. Nikam realized that he could not let this happen, otherwise its power would be overwhelming and he would be unable to fight the sorcerer. He pulled out his ritual knife, chanted the spell, and flew toward the stepfather's body. However, at that moment, the demon lord opened its eyes again. Seeing the sorcerer approaching, it clenched its fist and struck back with immense force, sending Nikam crashing to the ground. The sorcerer's face turned pale with shock. As the demon lord's power was greater than anyone else in the forest, Nikam, struggling to rise, was overwhelmed by intense pain. Despite the protective magic on his body, he felt excruciating agony. Before he could get up, the demon lord descended from the tree with incredible speed, pinning the sorcerer down. Its icy gaze stared into Nikam's eyes, saying, "You think you're so great? You're nothing." With that, it delivered another powerful punch, but Nikam raised both hands to block. Despite his effort, the immense power was too much and he was struck squarely in the face. It felt as though a truck had hit him, causing his face to shake and his skull to crack. The demon lord did not stop, bringing both hands above its head and smashing them down with all its might. Realizing that he would die if he took another hit, Nikom kneed the demon in the back, sending it stumbling forward. As the sorcerer stood up, he used Hanuman's power to kick the demon, but the stepfather managed to catch his ankle and throw him against a tree, breaking it. Nikom, blood pouring from his mouth, felt this was the first time in 10 years that he had bled. Recognizing that his power was insufficient to match the demon, he rose and used Hanuman's power to charge forward. But the demon lord was not willing to give up. Raising its hands, it cast dark magic again, shooting black beams at Nikom. The sorcerer, desperately trying to escape, felt the dark energy pursuing him but could not avoid it in time. The beam struck him directly, causing him to collapse on the ground, his body engulfed in flames. The demon revealed a satisfied smile, believing its enemy was defeated. It prepared to cast another dark spell when, suddenly, chains shot out and wrapped around the demon lord. Turning around, it saw another group of humans watching. Damn, I almost forgot about them. These pests need to be eliminated, it thought. Before the demon lord could act, the mercenaries aimed their weapons and fired a barrage of bullets. Causing intense pain, the demon lord, not waiting, gathered its power and broke free from the chains. It raised its hands to cast dark magic again. But at that moment, 3 spherical objects were thrown in. The demon lord looked at them in surprise. What are these? The objects exploded with tremendous force, sending the demon flying backward. The mercenaries quickly opened fire, not holding back. What now? The sergeant asked, worried that if they ran out of bullets, they would be doomed. Tannen, who knew how to stop it, looked back. As everyone worked together to restrain the demon lord, Nikom, breathing heavily and severely wounded, managed to rise again. Despite his battered body, he was determined not to give up. He had fought all his life, and this demon's existence was his own fault. Therefore, he had to stop it himself. He stood up, reciting a spell to summon the divine power of the gods. The demon lord, after being continuously attacked, began to cast another spell and released the ghost from its body. Thousands of spirits surged forth, attacking the soldiers. The hunters switched their target to the ghost army, giving the demon lord a chance to stand, but that was its biggest mistake. A figure broke through the horde of ghosts, and the demon lord was stunned to see that the sorcerer was still alive and approaching. Nikom threw a punch, sending the demon crashing to the ground. Without the ghost spirits in its body, its power was greatly diminished. Nikom stomped on the demon's body, kicked it in the ribs, and slammed it into the ground, causing it to cough up blood. The demon tried to cast dark magic, but Nikom seized its wrists, crushing the bones with tremendous force. Finally, Nikom threw the demon down again and finished it off with his ritual knife, reciting the incantation Sakasa Wisharawit Vesuan Saktawat Alawakatusa Vishaya Narayana Sakanan Itisa Enyufa Na as he drove the knife into the demon's body, pulled it out, and stabbed it again. The stepfather's body was too battered to withstand further attacks. The demon spirit separated from the body, and Nikom grabbed the amulet of Vesuan, reciting the spell to bind the spirit. Namami Sakato Namami Sopati Namo Sukto Hathia Sanyati Sampapan. Panchabuddha, the evil spirit, was drawn back into the amulet, and despite its resistance, Nikom's spell sealed it. Away, the army of ghosts turned their focus on Nikom, but the hunters and mercenaries knew what to do. Their guns targeted the ghosts, and Nikom completed the spell, sealing the demon spirit within the amulet, where it would remain imprisoned for thousands of years. As the dark clouds covering the forest dissipated, sunlight bathed the forest once again. The ghosts, exposed to the sun, fled in all directions. It seemed everything was over. Everyone collapsed, overwhelmed with relief. They had survived the terrifying battle and defeated the demon leading ghost army. However, Tannen heard a thud from the side and turned to find Nikom lying on the ground. He rushed over, saying, "Please, don't be hurt." But when he arrived, he was shocked by Nikom's condition. The sorcerer's body was in bad shape, with wounds all over and blood flowing freely. The stench was unbearable.